Have you ever fallen in love with a projection of your own mind? A woman stands before a mirror, but instead of her own reflection, she sees the eyes of a man she believed was love, a man she was certain was fate. But in truth, he was merely a figure her psyche cast upon the glass. Not him, but the image engraved deep in her unconscious, born from unhealed wounds, unnamed longings and whispers she didn't realize came from within herself. You don't love him. You love what he awakens in you, a fragment of your soul that has never been called by name, a dreamt-up king stitched together from memories shimmering with light and shadow. Carl Jung once said, "Love is the projection of the soul onto another person." And in the journey of love, especially for a woman, what we believe to be the deepest kind of love may simply be the possession of the Animus, the inner masculine archetype taking the form of father, teacher, hero, yet also the one who controls, who clouds intuition and silences the true inner voice. When a woman loves not from a free heart, but from a wound, unhealed love becomes a form of hypnosis, sweet yet entrapping. This video is not just about love. It is an invitation to step into the darkness in order to find the light, to understand why you've loved the wrong way, why you're drawn to the same type of man over and over again, and why even in a relationship you still feel profoundly alone. And then, how to find not only true love with another, but first and foremost, a sacred love for yourself. The path from projection to freedom is not an easy one. It is the journey Jung called individuation, the becoming of one's true self. But when you find the courage to confront the shadows within your own soul, love ceases to be a labyrinth and instead becomes a sacred space where your soul is seen, touched, and truly loved. And the first step is to meet the feminine shadow, the part of you you've refused to see, but has always been there. In the next chapter, we'll descend into the shadow of the woman in love, the origin of all illusions, and the keeper of the key to your freedom. Don't look away. The truth you're about to see may forever change the way you love. When a woman loves from a heart that has never been healed, love ceases to be a free offering. It becomes a silent form of possession, a subconscious replica of memory, of distorted yearning, of the father figure she once longed for, feared, and desperately sought to please. Carl Jung called this phenomenon projection the mind's way of surviving by casting its own shadow onto another. In love, projection is often the deepest, most intense, and most dangerous of all. Imagine this: a young woman meets a man. He is gentle, intelligent, with eyes that listen. But what stirs her is not just him, it is something that awakens within her, something she cannot name. All she knows is that in his presence she feels seen, understood, as if he is the missing piece. But what she feels is not truly him, it is her own anima speaking to her through the mirror of his image. Jung once wrote, "We meet someone and think we know them, but in truth we only know the part of them that reflects ourselves." In a culture obsessed with soulmates, with destiny, with once-in-a-lifetime love, it is easy for a woman to lose herself in the blur between the real man and the inner archetype. She doesn't fall in love with a person, she falls in love with a symbol woven from the collective unconscious, from culture, from pain. And then what happens? As time passes, the projection screen begins to thin. The man reveals flaws. He is no longer the savior, but simply human. She is disappointed. She is angry. She weeps. But what she mourns is not his change. It is the vanishing of the magic within her. And this is the painful yet essential moment when projection collapses. We are given the rare chance to truly see the other, not as we wish them to be, but as they are. Here Jung offered a truth both terrifying and liberating. Real love begins where projection ends. What does that mean? It means that when a woman moves through the grief of letting go of her idealization, she begins to meet herself. No longer driven by the need to be saved, to be unconditionally adored, to be validated from the outside, she turns inward and asks, "Who am I when I am no longer defined by love?" That is the beginning of individuation, the becoming of the true self. In the realm of love, individuation is not the death of romance, but the birth of conscious connection. To love without merging, to care deeply while remaining whole. We must summon the courage to face this truth. Many of us are not really loving. We are seeking healing in the guise of love. And so love is never enough. No matter how much the other gives, they can never heal what is ours alone to tend. When a woman realizes she is projecting, she can begin to ask deeper questions. Am I in love with him or with the feeling of being needed? Do I feel truly connected, or am I avoiding my own loneliness? Do I see him, or only my dream reflected in his eyes? These questions may hurt, but they are the key, because once she awakens, she no longer falls in love, she chooses it. And when a woman loves from that awakened place, love is no longer an emotional addiction nor a self-erasing sacrifice. It becomes a sacred space where two souls meet, not to complete one another, but to expand together. Do you recognize yourself in this journey? Have you ever loved a shadow only to be heartbroken and then blamed yourself for loving the wrong person? If so, you are not alone. Many of us have been there. And this is why this community exists, to remind each other that the inner journey is not easy, but it is the most worthwhile path of all. Share in the comments, have you ever realized you were projecting in love? Subscribe to keep going deeper into this path of transformation and awakening. We are not just lovers, we are seekers of light within our own darkness. In the next part, we'll begin to touch a powerful, yet often buried part of the feminine psyche, the feminine shadow, the aspects society taught us to deny: anger, jealousy, desire, the need to control. But are these truly shameful traits, or are they the gateway to the soul's deepest power? Stay close. The truth you're about to uncover may change the way you see yourself forever. There is a part of every woman the world has told her to hide. It is the fierce, instinctual, wild, and rebellious part, the part Jung called the shadow of the feminine. Not dark because it is evil, but because it has been denied, condemned, and buried deep in the unconscious through centuries of cultural, religious, and familial repression. From a young age, women are taught, don't be angry, don't be too strong, don't be jealous, be gentle, agreeable, sweet, lovable. But what happens to emotions that are not allowed to exist? They don't disappear. They go underground. They become whispers in the soul, outbursts of uncontrollable rage, unnamed sorrow, and a quiet dependency in relationships. Above all, they become the shadow, the rejected yet most powerful part of the psyche. Jung once wrote, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. When a woman begins the journey home to herself, the first thing she meets is not the light, but the dark. And that is terrifying. Imagine loving someone and one day you find yourself irrational, jealous, controlling, even hateful. You feel ashamed. You wonder, who am I? Am I crazy? Am I ruining this? But no, you are not losing your mind. You are hearing the knock of your feminine shadow, asking not to be silenced, but to be seen, to be acknowledged, to be loved. Not to be controlled, but to be integrated. In the Archetypes and the collective unconscious, Jung describes the shadow as an essential part of the individuation process. No one becomes whole without confronting their shadow. And for women, the shadow is not only repressed desire, it is stolen power, assertiveness, resilience, deep intuition, all the qualities once labeled unfeminine. A woman's deepest fear is not of being hurt, it is of being too much, too emotional, too intense, too jealous, too strong, too real. Yet within that too much lies the vital force of her soul. A woman once wrote in her therapy journal, I hate myself when I'm jealous. But deep down, I know it's the voice of a starving part of my soul. The part that longs to be chosen, to be prioritized, to be loved with presence, not promises. That is not jealousy, it is a cry for help. When we dare to sit with the shadow instead of exiling it, we open the door to truth. And truth isn't always comfortable, but it will set you free. The shadow is not just the destroyer, it is also the guide. It tells you when your boundaries are being crossed. It reminds you of healthy rage you once denied. It shows you the toxic relationships you keep feeding out of fear of abandonment. When a woman integrates her shadow, she no longer needs to be rescued. She stands rooted in her inner landscape. She knows what she needs. She knows who she is. And most importantly, she is no longer afraid of herself. And then, something strange happens. Love no longer becomes a place to escape the dark. It becomes the stage for transformation. She no longer loves to complete herself. She loves as someone already whole. Love then becomes no illusion, but a sacred meeting between two souls who have each faced their own depths. Have you ever felt like you were too much? Ever felt shame for having unacceptable emotions? Share your story in the comments. This is a safe space to be seen without judgment. Subscribe if you're walking the path of meeting your true self. You are not alone. We're here walking through the dark together. In the next part, we'll explore a subtle yet dangerous psychological phenomenon in love, when a woman is no longer herself but possessed by an inner masculine image, animus possession. And maybe you're not in love with him, but with the voice in your head once shaped long ago in the forgotten past. Keep going. This journey still has many truths waiting to awaken within you. Have you ever felt as though something had taken over you, not a spirit, but a voice inside your own mind? A voice that constantly criticizes, that reasons, demands, commands. A voice that insists you be strong, independent, in control, detached, and always right. If you're a woman, chances are that voice is not truly yours. It is the animus, the inner masculine archetype within a woman's psyche. And sometimes it doesn't just whisper, it possesses. Carl Jung called this phenomenon animus possession, when a woman becomes so identified with her unconscious masculine that she disconnects from her intuition, emotions, and authentic nature. And the most frightening part, she doesn't even realize it's happening. In the modern world, the animus often wears glamorous masks: the independent woman, the female CEO, the warrior who needs no man. But beneath the strength, many women live with a profound loneliness, not because they're not enough, but because they've unconsciously silenced the soft-feeling connective parts of themselves. Imagine a woman capable, successful, fierce. She runs a company, solves problems with sharp logic, but in love she either dominates or collapses. She cannot fully be present, cannot fully trust. When a man pulls away, she doesn't grieve, she debates. When betrayed, she doesn't cry, she writes a 10-page email filled with arguments. And yet afterwards she feels empty. She doesn't know what she wants. She doesn't know if her emotions are real or intellectual constructs. She's lost connection to herself, living in her mind, a mind filled with animus voices. You should do this. You're wrong. He's not good enough. Men are weak, never need anyone. Jung wrote, the animus often appears as a band of opinionated principles, rigid ideals, and false logic. When possessed by the animus, a woman doesn't love, she analyzes love. She doesn't feel pain, she explains it. She becomes disconnected from men, from the world, from her own true emotions. Interestingly, women with a strong animus often have early wounds, with the father figure absent, critical, controlling, or emotionally unavailable. She creates an inner ideal man in her mind, one who understands, listens, cherishes. And when no real man lives up to that image, the animus becomes the lover within. But this love is one way. It offers no warmth, only ideals and isolation. So how do we break free? Not by killing the animus, because the animus also carries gifts: inner strength, intellectual clarity, creativity, expression, and self-protection. But to let the animus serve rather than possess a woman must bring it into consciousness. She must learn to recognize, when am I talking to a real man, and when am I talking to my animus through him? This requires radical honesty and presence. When the voice says, he's not good enough, pause and ask who is speaking. Is this my true feeling or an old script I inherited? Journaling, meditation, dream work, and Jungian analysis can all help disentangle the self from the animus voice. And then one day she sits across from a man, not to assess him, not to project an ideal onto him, but simply to see him in his humanness, in his limits, in his presence. At that point, love is no longer a test of ideals, but a living encounter with humanity. Have you ever felt like there's an invisible man inside you making choices in your love life? Do you feel like you live more in your head than your heart? Share it in the comments, because naming it is the first step to reclaiming your power. Subscribe if you're on the path of healing your inner masculine, not to become a man trapped in a woman's body, but to become a whole woman embracing both strength and softness. In the next part, we'll explore a paradoxical turning point, the shattering of love's illusion when the heart breaks, but the soul begins to awaken. It's the moment a woman steps out of the labyrinth of projection, shadow, and animus, and for the first time sees the world and herself with new eyes. Stay with us, because beyond the breaking lies freedom. There is a silent moment in a woman's journey through love, a moment when all illusions shatter like glass falling on stone. It is the moment the man she once idealized becomes ordinary. No more glow, no more perfect understanding, no longer the savior, just a man with gifts and flaws standing before her raw and real. That moment is an inner earthquake, and if she is unprepared, it can feel like her heart collapsing. But Jung reminds us we do not see the light until we have walked through the dark. And it is precisely in this moment of disillusionment that a woman is offered something profound, the chance to meet herself, to step out of the fog of projection, to release the voice of the Animus, and to face reality where love is no longer a fantasy, but sacred ground upon which the soul can walk in truth. The breaking is not failure, it is rebirth. Now she begins to look back and ask, who did I love? What did I see in him? Was it really his or was it mine? These questions open a deep doorway leading into the unconscious, to the earliest memories, to the absent father, to the first heartbreak, to the longing to be seen, to be chosen, to be loved. She no longer blames the man for changing. Instead, she sits with the part of herself that hoped love would fix the fractures inside, and slowly from the center of her chest, something stirs. She begins to forgive. Forgive herself for believing too much, for loving blindly, for choosing wrong, and also for surviving. Because it was those very mistakes that brought her here to this awakening. Jung called this moment a symbolic death, the ego crumbling, so that a new self can be born. And the woman, after the pain, comes to see a truth she had always carried. Love does not make her whole, she already was. True love is not the reward for finding someone who fits. It is the result of healing, of returning to wholeness within. Now she no longer seeks someone to fill the emptiness. She enters love with eyes wide open, with a heart that is light, not out of need but out of choice. Love becomes a space of offering, not a negotiation for worth. Pause for a moment and ask yourself, have you ever had a moment of disillusionment? Have you ever looked at someone you loved and realized you never truly saw them? If so, do not be ashamed. You are not alone. We have all wandered through the maze of projection. What matters is that we choose to walk out. Share in the comments. Have you ever experienced this shattering in love, and what changed within you afterward? Subscribe if you're walking the path of healing, reconnection, and discovering real love, beginning with yourself. And now, having walked through Animus possession, through the shadow, through heartbreak and awakening, the woman approaches the final chapter, love after freedom. A love that is no longer possession, no longer rescue, but a meeting between two awakened beings. In the next part, we'll explore, what does love look like after individuation? And how do we love deeply without losing ourselves? So keep going. We are getting close to the light. After it all, after the shadow, the projections, the possession, and the heartbreak, the woman stands. She no longer waits to be saved, no longer dreams of a perfect soul arriving to heal her wounds. She is no longer the girl seeking her prince. She is the woman who has walked the path home to herself. And now she learns to love from freedom, a love that binds, nothing depends on no one, and never requires her to lose herself to keep another. Carl Jung called this the final stage of individuation, when the ego no longer resists the unconscious, when a woman is no longer possessed by archetypes, but consciously uses them from awareness. Love after freedom no longer grows from fear of loneliness. It does not come from the need to be validated or chosen. It arises from inner fullness, from a heart that has known pain, faced its own shadows, and learned to sit in stillness amid the emotional storm. In this love, the woman no longer loves to please. She loves like a soul artist, freely, with boundaries, with depth, with choice. She understands that true love doesn't make you lose yourself. It helps you see yourself more clearly. The other is no longer her missing half, but a mirror, honest and unfiltered, reflecting how her soul shows up in connection. A free woman in love is one who can say yes without fear of loss, and no without needing to explain. She doesn't chase. She doesn't freeze. She chooses to stay because staying feels true to her. Picture a relationship where you don't have to guess, don't have to control, don't have to mold yourself into something likable to be loved. Instead, you are fully yourself, whole, radiant, complex, both light and shadow. Loved not despite who you are, but because of everything you are. Love after freedom is where eros, your life force, your sensuality, your creative energy is no longer repressed or distorted. It becomes a sacred current nourishing both souls. Here, intimacy goes far beyond the body. It is a meeting of the deepest layers of the self. And in that space, a woman finally understands love is not the destination. It is the journey alongside another, not to live happily ever after, but to awaken again and again together. Have you ever tasted a love like this? A love that doesn't bind or blur, but helps you grow into more of who you are? Share your story in the comments. Stories like these are the seeds of a community that loves with awakened hearts. Subscribe if you're becoming a free lover. one who doesn't need love to feel worthy, but brings her worth into love. And now, in the final moments of this journey, we return to where we began, but with new eyes. The path from projection to freedom is not linear. It is a living spiral where each experience, each heartbreak, each shedding of illusion is a layer falling away so the true light can shine from within. Keep going. The end is not an ending, but a deeper, truer, freer beginning than you've ever known. Perhaps the greatest paradox in the journey of love is this. The deeper you go into another, the more you are called back to yourself. And when a woman has walked the full arc from blind projection through the shadows of her own psyche beyond unconscious possession and into the illuminating heartbreak, love is no longer something to have. It becomes something to be present with. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become." And now you who have stayed with this video to the very end, you are no longer the woman run by the unconscious, no longer moved by old wounds, nor haunted by the ghost of ideal love. You are the one choosing to see, choosing to awaken, choosing to walk your own path even when it is quiet, even when no one claps, even when you walk it alone. Because the truth is, the journey to becoming yourself is rarely loud. There are no fireworks, no perfect endings, no background music or applause. But there is a stillness, a quiet, profound knowing I do not need to become someone else to be loved. I only need to be honest with my emotions, with my boundaries, and with the deepest longings of my soul. And it is precisely in that space that love begins to arrive, not as a savior, but as a companion. He may come, he may go, but you no longer tremble, because you have found the very thing you spent years searching for in someone else yourself. If this video touched something deep within you, if a part of your story was illuminated by these words, then I invite you to become part of this community, a space where every share is sacred, where no one is judged for jealousy, heartbreak, or loving someone who could never hold them. A space where we walk forward not to become perfect, but to become more real step by step. Share in the comments. Where are you right now in your journey of love? What are you learning about yourself? We'll read, we'll listen, we'll hold your truth not to fix it, but to honor it, like soul companions who walk without rush, lighting the way softly as we go. If you saw yourself in this video, if your heart quietly nodded in recognition, subscribe. Not to a YouTube channel, but to a soul space where each video is a step back home. And when you leave this video, don't try to memorize every theory, every word. Take just one question with you. How can I love and still be free? Perhaps there will never be a final answer. But in choosing to live the question in each decision, each heartbeat, each moment of honesty, you will slowly become a woman who loves with the light of her own soul. See you in the next video, where we'll keep diving into the depths of the feminine soul, the transformation of the shadow, and the quiet magic of awakening in everyday life. And never forget, you are not alone. This journey is ours.